of small business owners, along with assisting organizations to create an environment where no employee feels left out. So there's two sides of the business: small business consulting and diversity, equity, and inclusion training that is offered through certified DE&I practitioners. This is going to be an informal time together. So if you have questions, place the questions in the chat. Feel free to come off mute. We will ask that you stay on mute while you are not speaking, just so that we have sound clarity. Okay. Our goal today is simply to inspire. We want to inspire you on your writing journey, wherever you may be on that writing journey. Maybe it's just a thought. Maybe you've written a chapter, or maybe you are ready to now turn your manuscript over to a publisher. Wherever you are, we are here to inspire and give you tips on how to move forward. So we're going to just lay out a little bit of an agenda. We're going to have 3 speakers today. Rosalind Rice is going to kick us off, and then we're going to have Deanna and Judy. So I am going to just quickly introduce Rosalind Rice. I feel, of course, that I know her absolutely the best, being that she's my twin sister. But she is co-founder of DPI, and I can now say she is the best-selling author of Power of One: Finding Hope in the Midst of Struggle, that is now available on Amazon. And yes, that is a shameless plug, but I had to do it. So anyway, Rosalind, if you could share with us.
Yes. Hi, everyone. So it's so good to be with you today. Um, I just wanted to take this opportunity to just talk to you about my own journey, my own writing journey, because when I came into it, I had no idea what I wanted to do. And I feel that if I can just pay it forward and help someone else, I feel like that is a major success. So for me, the writing journey really started back when I got this journal, when my mom gave this to me, Easter of 1990. And this is when I start journaling. And really, my first journal entry was about my dear friend Mickey that is on. And I would just kind of write my thoughts. And it really became a way to kind of dump my thoughts. Now, I truly believe I've for a long time been very addicted to words. And I was able to see that really show up with oratorical contests that my mom would enter me in. I didn't necessarily like them. I didn't want to be in front of an audience, but my mom knew that, there was a leadership inside of me. And so she would kind of force us to do them. But what I did see is, thank you so much, Nancy. What I did see was the ability to see how impactful words are. So I remember that there would be poetry, spoken words at these contests, and you would see people tear up. You would see like passion in their eyes. You would hear applause, standing ovations. And it really at a young age sealed for me that words matter. There is a power in words to be able to inspire and uplift. And there's also a way that words can be used to tear down and destroy. And Renee and I decided early on, we wanted to make sure that our words were going to amplify and educate, encourage. And so we love words. And oftentimes I say Renee and I, even though that this was a solo project, because I really thought our first book would have been Renee and I. So that's a whole story in and of itself. So in 2011, like I was taking a walk and just kind of had this God-given thought that you're going to be an author. And I remember talking to Renee, and I think she was somewhere on an elevator, and she had a very similar thought. Talk about being identical twins. And so we signed up for this writing conference. And this was going back when it was very much the traditional way of publishing, which you went to writers' conferences, you pitched an idea, there were literary agents that were there. I mean, it was all type of people that were writing greeting cards to, Bible stories, to children, to fiction, nonfiction. And so it's all of these kind of publishing powerhouses, if you will. And I remember Renee and I had an idea. We had a few chapters written. We had gone through the process of having an editor, professionally edit the 2 or 3 chapters that we had. We we pitched those ideas. We would be eating lunch and we would hurry up and go and meet somebody at the trash can just to kind of get our idea out there to as many people as possible. And let me tell you something, we got a big old no. We got a big, I mean, literally rejection after rejection after rejection. And I just want to say, even though it was such an incredibly exciting weekend where we learned so much, that rejection had a bit of a sting. But Renee and I knew that there was a message that we wanted to get out. And so we start blogging. We knew we wanted to encourage people. So we're like, you know what, we'll just start blogging. So 2011, we started blogging. But I remember getting that rejection, and you get the you kind of lose a little motivation to write, right? And so fast track that to where we are now in 2021. So right, 10 years later, and we have really stayed the course in writing with our blog. And I remember last year, I was asked to do encouragement every Friday at 12 p.m. I still do it on Facebook Live, provide encouragement during COVID because people were going through such a terrible time. And not only them, I was myself. In the midst of COVID, my son got COVID. I was being furloughed. That furlough turned to unemployment. I was trying to figure out what to do. I had family members that passed away. And I thought to myself, how am I going to be up here encouraging someone when I myself need to be encouraged? So I would sit on my white couch, look out the window every Sunday morning, and I would write the words for that following week that I wanted to say on that Friday. Well, fast track that to September. In September, I had another God given thought that everything that I have been writing would be a book. And I was like, wow, it just started with a thought. And for many of you, it might just be a thought that you had. I've heard so many people say, oh my goodness, one day I need to write a book. Well, let me tell you, that one day is today. And that's why we are all gathered here today. That one day is today. So I decided in September that I wanted to go on the path of writing this book. I still was writing, I still was doing the little Facebook Lives. I felt a sense of urgency because I felt like there were so many people in a very dark place. And I wanted to quickly be able to provide something that could provide hope and light and just goodness in the world. As you were scrolling through social media, people are talking about funerals and, what could I do? Um, so I interviewed the two guests that will be coming after me, Deanna, who is a ghostwriter, and then eventually Hasmark. Now, what I will say is what I didn't expect is when I had my conversation with Hasmark, I felt that it was going to be a very kind of salesy, pitchy type of deal when I tried to pitch my idea, and it was anything but. Immediately, even though it was over Zoom, I felt this incredible sense of peace. I think your gut knows when you are in the presence of someone who is kind and authentic. I felt peace about it. I felt great about just what they were informing me about the process of publishing, that they would come alongside me. What was most important to me after having had pitched the idea and received that rejection, I knew that I wanted to control 100% of my content. That was incredibly important for me. And so that is why I went down the self-publishing journey versus the traditional publishing journey. I wanted 100% of my voice to be displayed in my writing. Um, I I was thinking to myself, what about the reader? And one thing I've learned, the power of one is about people walking through very dark times. When I thought about that reader, I thought about they don't have a lot of time to read. And so I made a conscious effort to make every single chapter 700 words or less. It's a very quick, straightforward read because when you're going through a very dark season, you don't have time to just read like all this information. You might be whizzing through a hospital, you might be whizzing through an airport to get to the next, or whatever the case might be. So I made sure it was 700 words or less. But I found that the book became a way for me to just really give back to those that are hurting. And so for you, my question is, what's your story? if you are an entrepreneur, I want you to know this has become one of the greatest ways to build credibility with my audience, to really showcase kind of your expert opinion. I think a book becomes one of your best marketing tools, if you will. Um, we all live this very fast and frazzled life. People really have like 7 seconds of attention. And I know I've talked way over 7 seconds, but so you got to grab them very quickly. But I do want to give a huge thank you to the team at Hasmark. We have Judy and Dave that are on because they were so professional. I have so many questions. If you know me, I ask a lot of questions. I remember sending an email with like 30 questions. Each one of them came back the next day with an answer to every single question, links to resources. There was a genuine support. There was such an honest opinion. If something wasn't the right way, or it didn't feel right, or their professional opinions, like, I know you might want to do this, but really professionally, you should go this way. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. So thank you to Hasmark. But I do have to give the plug for, Power of One. What is Power of One? So I want you to think about, how do you recover after a loss? How do you find peace after you've received a very scary medical diagnosis? How do you bounce back when you've been reduced to zero? You've lost a loved one. I truly believe that you cling to the power of one word. In the midst of trauma, it is one word that can change the trajectory of your life. And that's what the power of one is all about. Every single chapter is a different word that God used during dark seasons in my life. And so that is what this book is all about. Um, I
Rosalind, I do have a
Yes,
question. Okay,
yes.
I do have a question. Because I'm on my writing journey and have been for quite some time. And so what is the difference? Because you talked about self-publishing, and maybe this is something Judy is going to discuss when she talks. What is the difference between self-publishing and traditional publishing?
Mm. So the self-publishing, and maybe Judy, you can help me with this. Like, traditional publishing is where you are pitching an idea to a publishing house, and they decide whether they want to take that project on and help you with having a publicist and all of the kind of bells and whistles to get your book. But what you give up is sometimes creative control, also a part of your royalties as well. Self-publishing allows you to do it 100% on your own. Obviously, I did it with a publishing team, but it is still a self-published book. But Judy, Dave, do you want to help answer that question?
You
Good
did
question.
extremely well, though.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yes.
Is by far the first and most important thing is the difference between owning the book and giving the rights to your book. So it's great that traditional publishing is there, but they basically buy the rights to your book. And that's what you said. You lose creative control in most cases, although you can negotiate your contract. Some will agree to negotiate, some won't. They'll usually give you need literary agent. They'll give you an advance on your royalties,
Mhm.
and then they take care of your royalties. Then there's the rest of us. So we fall into the co-publishing, vanity publishing, self-publishing, whatever you wish to call it. And that means you retain your rights to your book. I'm going to guess majority of us allow for that. And we're a real mix on rates, fees, royalties. In our case, we give you back all of your royalties. It's 100% yours. And we charge a fee for what we do, but you've got creative control.
Mhm.
What will happen is, if at any time, as you mentioned, Rosalind, one thing we are honest about, if the quality of your book isn't up to what we feel readers would enjoy, we're going to tell you. And I literally have either sent people to ghostwriters, sent it for developmental editing, or I've actually canceled the contract. So lots of different things going on.
And that's what I love. Like, you know, when you have that manuscript, and let me tell you, because people will ask me what format does your manuscript need to be in? It was in Google Docs. And every single chapter was just a different like page, a different doc, if you will. And I just sent that over, and the great team at Hasmark was able to really kind of put it into a manuscript, if you will. So don't even stress out about how you turn it over to the publisher. Because it was it was nothing formal. Let me just put it that way. Yeah, it was nothing formal.
Ross,
Yes.
hey, I'm just wondering, when you are differentiating between those two, if you self-publish, is there any help with the marketing of it to get where your book gets out there and starts getting so that word of mouth can spread, or are you on your own for that part of it as well?
I'm so glad you asked.
I'm so glad you asked that, because as I was told during my first session with Hasmark, the writing of the book is really, as we just talked about, 5% of what you do. The journey of when you launch the book, that's literally the beginning of the journey. It's the marketing of the book. So Kevin, that's such a great question. Yes, they do have a service to help you with the marketing of your book, and a very strong support to help market your book.
Okay.
Yeah, but definitely Dave and Judy chime in there.
Well, exactly what you said. A lot of people think that the publishing date of your book, now that it's on Amazon, it's out there, whew, thank God that's over. And you think that's the finish line. That's actually the starting line.
Mhm.
Everything else was in preparation for that moment, because from then on, as long as you want, basically the rest of your life, it's a part of you. That book is an extension of who you are, and other books that you may do, but it's really where everything really starts for you, including and especially the marketing.
Mhm.
Yeah, you live it, you eat it, you breathe it, you live it.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Rosin, since Dr. Kevin brought that book, that question up, how did you get to become a best-selling author? What did that look like? How did that go? Because you were a best-selling author in a day. I mean, but there was a build-up. So talk us through that.
Yeah. Hasmark, Judy and Dave. I think it's important for you to definitely share the word. Obviously, I feel like when you first launch, it's your family and friends that are there to just like support you. My sister at 12 p.m., 12 a.m. was like ordering books and like sending emails. I was sleeping in my bed. And so I was like, go, Renee, go. But it's important for you to share the word about your book being launched. Those sales on that first day are incredibly important. And Hasmark really walks you through that process but really the book in the hands of Hasmark, I don't know, like they're known for making best-selling authors. And so I was here for it. So I don't know what the process is, but I was completely thankful for it. Yeah. That's a good question, Renee.
It's a fantastic question. And actually we've been doing that for 14 years now. We've actually done it for the traditional publishers. In fact, when we talk about traditional publishing, people have a tendency to think that they do the marketing. So I'm just going to go back there for 1 second. They don't normally, and they haven't in a long, long time, because they used to hire companies like ours. So we worked for the Hay House, Random House, HarperCollins, all the big guys. But it is really there's a couple things that really are important to becoming the bestseller. It's most importantly, it's a concentration of the sales in the shortest window of time. So it doesn't mean, it's different than the New York Times. New York Times is about a very large volume of books over a week, period of a week. It only takes 1 week. There's a lot of magic to that 1 week though. But to become a bestseller or international bestseller, if you can manage to do it, you can be that for 1 hour and no longer. That's all it needs to be. So all the sales happen. The secret behind the scenes is the fact that we put your book up there. We make sure it's available. It's got keyword searches going on. Categories are really, really important.
It's all that build up, all the work that happens before you get to that launch date.
Yeah.
That we were talking about. So it is all about the marketing, Kevin. And the other thing I wanted to just point out is that Hasmark stands for the heart and soul of marketing. So
Yeah.
that's really where our business began, in the marketing of books, before we were even a publisher.
I love that.
Having
I
said
love
that.
that. Yeah. Kevin, I also had a launch team. So I chose about 6 people, very diverse group of people. And I sent them the manuscript when it was kind of in its final stages. They read over the manuscript and they helped me promote the book. So definitely having a launch team, and it was men and women. But I wanted them to be in the spaces where I knew my target audience would be. And so they kind of put it out on their social media platforms and on their storylines on IG and Facebook. And that really helped as well. So having other influencers to be able to promote your book is definitely important as well. But I did want to just ask, I'm going to put up a poll because I would just want to know, for those of you that are on the call, where are you in your publishing journey, or your writing journey, I should say? Where are you in your writing journey? So this is completely anonymous, and then I'll put up the results. And even for Judy and Dave, because you never know if you all are authors yourself. So where are you in your writing journey? Because I just want to inspire you to keep writing. We need just one more. All right. So here we go. Oh, are you ready for the results? So this is where we are. Can you see? So 56%, let me put the glasses on here. 56% of you finished a few chapters. So that's very exciting. Keep writing. Yeah. Okay. That's good to know. Thank you for doing
Oh,
that.
all right, so let's move on. I am now going to introduce our next speaker, which is Deanna. Actually, today is her birthday, so she could not be with us in person. And so we asked her to do a video. She is a ghostwriter. And so let me just share a little bit about her before I go into what is ghostwriting. So Deanna is an award-winning published author with over 20 years of experience. She's a ghostwriter and an editor, and she's the founder of the Writing Journeys. For those of you that aren't familiar with ghostwriting, a ghostwriter is hired to write your literary work that is officially credited to you. So if the thought of having to actually write your book is daunting and may not fit into your schedule, ghostwriting may be a really good option for you. So in her video, it's only about 4 minutes long, she's going to review some of the misconceptions about ghostwriting.
Okay. Okay.
Hi, everyone. My name is Deanna Novak. And first and foremost, I want to thank wholeheartedly Roslyn and Renee for having me today. I so wish I could be there with you live, but as entrepreneurs, we came up with a plan B, and they've allowed me to share a quick message with you through this video. So I'd like to talk a little bit about ghostwriting, and I thought a nice way to do so would be to talk about some of the misconceptions out there and maybe clear them up a little bit for you. So I think probably the biggest thing I hear from potential clients is, well, if I hire you, this isn't going to be my book. It won't be my book, it'll be your book. And that is 100% not true. I am providing a service. It is your story, your idea. You invest a lot of time in this process too. There's so much back and forth because I need to capture your voice. So we talk a lot. You send me stuff. We go through what the message is, who the audience is. You're involved in every single step. I just hold the pen and help come up with some of the words, but it is 150% your book. I'm just helping you get it done, and probably get it done a little bit faster than you may have been able to do on your own. So that's one. I'm in the background, I'm holding the pen, I'm just helping you with your book. The second one is that ghostwriting is the same as writing. It, of course, is a lot about writing, but I think there's a couple of skills more than think. I know there's a couple of skills that are required from ghostwriters that aren't necessarily needed in writing. So that would be the ability to listen and listen carefully and very intently to that person, and also to the ability to empathize with them, because when I'm writing, I am writing in that person's voice and saying things how they would say them, not how I would say them, not how I would anticipate what's next, but really what they want. So as a ghostwriter, you really need to be able to listen very, very carefully and really put yourself in that person's shoes, so that when it's time to do the writing, you can kind of capture that and write from that perspective and not your own. So there's a couple of skills there that ghostwriters need that are a little bit different from just if you were writing with your name on the top of the page or at the beginning of the book. Another common one that I'll hear a lot is it unfair, or do you feel like it's unfair to have done all that work and not have any credit? And again, I say absolutely 100% not. I am so blessed to be able to provide this service for my clients. It makes me so, so happy to do what I do. I have clients who have been thinking about writing books for 10 years, for 5 years, for 3 years, they just had the idea, but it's hard to get started. It's hard to complete it. Actually, I shouldn't say that. It's probably easy to get started, but it's definitely very hard to get it completed. And after working with me for a few months and they get their book in their hand and I get that call, generally with a bunch of tears on both sides, it is the best feeling in the world to me. So I don't need my name on a book. I have my name on other books, but this is a service that I am blessed and honored and so grateful to be able to provide, because honestly, everyone has a story. Not everyone can write a book. Not everyone has the time to write a book. So doing what I do, I get to help them get their story out of their hearts and minds and onto paper and into a published book that is going to inevitably help other people. So I couldn't be more blessed or thankful for what I do. So those are some common misconceptions. I hope I've cleared them up a little bit for you. If you have any questions at all about ghostwriting, my services in particular, ghostwriting in general, please contact me. My email is up on the screen. Rosalind has all of my information. I'd be happy to talk to you. And again, answer any questions you might have. So have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for listening and take care. Bye.
So a great thing to know about Deanna is that with her 20 years of experience, she has ghostwritten, along so many spectrums, everything from law, policy, business, genealogy, culture, traditions and family. She has her own children's book. So she just has a wealth of knowledge. I've placed her website in the chat. So if you want to connect with her, and we will also post this meeting and this event, we will send you her information. And so now we are down to, can you believe it's already been 30 minutes? We're down to our final speaker, which is Judy, which she's already been interjecting, but she is the president of Hasmark Publishing. And one of the things that I loved when I was doing my research on them is that their value proposition is to help authors connect with readers' hearts and souls. And so you heard a little bit about that. And that's where Hasmark Publishing comes from. So Judy, thank you so much. And we look forward to hearing from you.
Well, thank you, ladies, for having me here today. I so appreciate it. It's this journey with the two of you and Rosalind with your book has been absolutely incredible. And I thank you, because it's really common that as soon as an author finishes their book and they create the success, it's like, how did you do it? How did you do it? What happened? What was the process like? So it's always incredible to be able to be here and share, and anyone who's on the call, I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you guys have. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, we have been in business for I keep getting mixed up because there's 12 years officially and 14 years in the making of Hasmark. It started when I actually it started a little earlier. Peggy is, as Rosalind just met, is my sister, and she actually needed help. So she asked me, even though I was working full time, she asked me if I'd give her a hand with bestseller campaigns. Sure, why not? Let me go see what that's like. I mean, I like books, why not? And as soon as we started to get in and get to meet the authors, it was like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. And we have continually been introduced to incredible individuals. We have worked from every spectrum of whatever a book could be, fiction to romance to business to self-help to recipes to cookbooks, the picture books, photograph books, whatever anybody comes up with, journals we've been involved with and created. It all began back 12 years, 13 years ago, where Hay House Publishing actually hired us. As I mentioned earlier, is that is the conception, is that the big guys will hire you for marketing. And that was the case then. Hay House hired us, HarperCollins, Random House, Wiley. I don't think there's a publisher that we have at some point not been contacted to support their authors with. We have done bestseller campaigns and put people on New York Times lists, such as Deepak Chopra, Marcy Shimoff, Jack Canfield, Robin Sharma. That list is pretty endless as well. Greg Braden, Jerry and Esther Hicks. We've worked with some of the most incredible people in the world. And the names that I mentioned are the well-known names, but there's a lot of first-time authors, as you were, Rosalind, that we've managed to create the success with too. And Talita had joined the group, and she actually had created the tagline about us, more than being a publishing firm, because that is really what we want to be known at, is that we don't want to just be thought of as publishing, because when someone comes into our book club or book publishing company, that's just the beginning of the journey. We've all talked about the fact that, it's the writing is 5%, and it truly is. It's only just the beginning, because if you keep your book going, if you keep your book out there, you keep talking, you are your best advocate. You are your best salesperson. I don't know. Funny enough, there's that stigma with sales. And I don't know if you find that, Rosalind, too, but it's when you're passionate about something, it doesn't feel like that. So I don't like the stigma, even though that's what it's about. But it's about you. Yeah, you wrote your book for a reason. You want it to be shared. Your message is important.
Yes.
And that's our job, is to making sure that we can get that book out there with you. And we're very, very fortunate that we've had the opportunity to do that. And I loved when we met you. I absolutely loved the hardest thing is to have simplicity of your message. It's easy to make it long. It's easier to create value propositions that are, 6 paragraphs long. It's really hard to be succinct. And you and I had that chat when we first met about the fact that Power of One, wow, what an incredible concept. I just absolutely love it. I still love it. I still keep this book close to me. So I even loved what you wrote at the back of the book, where you said, you cling to the power of one word spoken at the right time can completely change the trajectory of your life. It's true, though.
It's so true. It's so true. It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what a gift to be given, to give that, being able to get this message out to the world. And what it reminds me of, I remember being in a lineup at a store checking out, and someone said to me, we got in chatting, and they said to me, what do you do? And I said, book publishing. And they're like, oh, cool. And I said, and I have a book, international best-selling book. And they're going, oh, you do? And it's like, I spent my entire life, 50, 60 hours a week being a book publisher. And at one point in my life, I stopped and wrote this book with a ghostwriter. And it made me laugh because of the reaction, how they got really excited about writing the book. And I agree with what you ladies are doing here today, because a book does change lives. I've seen it impact lives in a big, big way. In fact, my sister's one of them, I'm one of them. And we're so fortunate to be in this world today. So yeah, I don't know what else you'd like to questions. I think Kevin.
Yeah, sorry.
No, good.
Just wondering, like, I like what you're saying and everything, and you too, Rosalind. I'm just wondering, like, how does the process play out? Like, say you finish your book and you call you guys and you say, okay, I'm done with my book. I mean, where does it go from, like, say I'm having someone edit it? Is that something you've already done with your team that's already seen your manuscript? Like, how does the process play out? Like, ding, 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 down the line before, you know, in the grand scheme.
Yes, that's such a great question, because I had that same question as well. So when I had the initial consultation with Judy and Dave, I sent over my manuscript and they kind of read it over, gave me feedback, and then was like, yes, this is a project that we want to take on. From there, I was introduced to the entire team that would be supporting me. I had a project manager, God bless Jenna and Aisha, and they helped walk me through the process. So it would go through the different stages within Hasmark. It would go through the editing phase, and every time there was any type of edit or change that they would make, they would come back and I would have to give my approval. And then after that, I don't remember. It was like, it was a pipeline of different.
And
I just remember having to continue.
How long did it take, Rosalind? Because I think we should discuss that too. How long was that process?
So I really probably signed my contract in January, and by March 30th, my book launched. And I remember I kept saying to them, are we sure we're on track for March 30th? And they were like, yeah, we got it. We're good. I was like,
no problem.
Okay. Yeah.
We gotcha.
We got this. So there was also the cover. I remember there is a graphic designer. They consult with a color psychologist. And I got back a few choices for the cover of my book. And then it was like, I didn't realize the cover of the book was then different than the back of the book. I mean, I realized they were different, but it was just a different process of approval. So I was walking through, my project manager was walking me through all of those different approvals. What was great is that I received endorsements from my author tribe at Hasmark, which was great because it was people who were already a part of the process, read my book and gave their honest opinion and endorsement on the book, which was, that was kind of one of those surprise and delights that I did not know that I was going to have. But it's the editing, and then it went to the proofreading. Is that right, Judy?
Yes, exactly right. Yes, we run the cover in parallel to the editing and then the proofreading. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. And I thought it was interesting because I thought editing was proofreading. Well, what do I know? You know, but I think it was great that there were really two separate eyes, set of eyes that were on it, so that any little thing, the proofreading was really that detailed, grammatical, like things I just would have never seen, and the editor, you know, might have missed. So if there was anything wrong with the structure of a sentence, that's what the editor really helped with. And then it went to the phase of where it was formatted. So what was great about, I got to pick the size of the book. I got to pick what color I wanted the pages, whether I wanted them cream or white, which for me was kind of fun. And then I think that was the full process. But all the while, you're meeting with your project manager who is walking you through every single step.
That's the what you just described is the publishing process for sure. Mm-hmm. And then with the marketing, that sort of happens in parallel. There's an awful lot of swim lanes that are happening from start to finish with respect to the publishing and the marketing, the social media, and everything else that's going on to make you a bestseller, and then to get that marketing ball rolling and then keep it rolling thereafter. So we call it our Hasmark book family. Yeah. And once you're in the family, there's so many people that are kind of pulling you along in the right direction, right? To take care of every little nuance and every little aspect that you'll either not think about or you'll forget about, or, you know, like I'm sure we would have mentioned something about getting the endorsements, but when it happens, it's like, oh yeah, that's great, you know, or the publishing or the rights or the about the author or the covers, all of that kind of stuff. And then when it comes to the marketing, there's so much involved there. So the marketing is much like writing the book in the first place. See, human beings have been around since before most of us could read and write. So storytelling was the way of communication. And it was so important and so inherent in our DNA. So when you write a good book, you want to have something that you can be so proud of and tell that good story the way you want to. And that is actually very much the power of one. So
Dave and Judy, let me ask a question, because we do have a question in the chat.
Sure.
How do you prepare, or how does one prepare for the consultation with the publisher? Like, what's needed in that initial meeting?
Our email address.
That's all you need.
So it's just that easy.
Honestly, Renee, like, we can do any part of it. Like, I have one author that came to me and she had the idea for a book. So I have been consulting with some authors, like Nancy has been with us for a couple of years. Her and I have been exchanging emails, consulting, coming up with ideas, but we haven't actually published her book yet. The time is coming, but we're here. Like, you don't have to prepare. If you want to talk about your idea, does it make a good idea? Do you have a title? Like, Deanna's working ever since you ladies have introduced her, because she is incredible. She's working with us now to work with our authors to get into that initial call, so that if an author needs help with the writing, she can do the ghostwriting. She didn't talk about developmental editing, but that's also a step we can do as well. So even if you think you've only got the framework for a book, we'll talk to you about it. I've had people checking in. They use us even for kind of milestones. So they'll tell us that they've set, say, September 30th is their date for completion. At the end of every month, I receive an email. And it just holds them accountable. So you can prepare if you wish in manuscript. It is better if it's in a Word document. Google Docs is a great way to hand us your manuscript. We're going to take your manuscript. We're going to put it into Word. I actually literally, as this saying goes, have received a book on a napkin. It's a children's book. I did. I can show it to you. It was just, I'm like, you're sending me that? And they're like, yeah. Okay.
Wow. That's
I had a lady do one on a typewriter. So we helped, and she called. Believe it or not, she was in prison. She called us, and we're going to be publishing her book. And she had to do it on a typewriter. And she came out of prison and she called and she said, how am I now going to get the book done? And we found a place for her to get it transcribed. So we're going forward with it. So
let me ask a little bit, because I did get this question anonymously, a little taboo topic, so to speak. What does the pricing look like for self-publishing? What should one kind of be prepared to take a look at, and how is the pricing determined? If you could just speak to that.
It's a fantastic question, and I'm happy to speak to it. There are a lot of variables. So a children's book is different than, you know, a self-help or a business book, of course. So a lot of the factors are things like how big a book. That's a really, really important one. And it could be that it's number of words. Images, so not just illustrations, but images, how many you're going to be inserting, because we've got to treat those. We've got to check the quality. So that's a factor of cost. If we're doing illustrations, that's a factor of cost. If we're doing your book from start to finish, we don't start the, like, we don't start the clock until we're actually ready to get going. So even if we've consulted with you and had a couple meetings with you, that's not part of the whole package. I don't count the clock at that time. to give you an indication, and again, we're there, you can check out other self-publisher, vanity publisher, because our prices vary. Ours is set, I would say an average price for a book is usually about $5,000. That's to get your book cover done, to get the editing, the proofreading, the layout in paperback, Kindle, upload to Amazon. It would be to get endorsements. And we've now introduced augmented reality into our books as well. So that's everything. And that's, I'm going to say that that's usually about a 30 to 40,000 word book. So a
I was going
children's
to ask
book
you to
would
talk
probably
about
be,
the augmented reality, because I find that to be so incredibly innovative.
yeah, we're so fortunate. Dave's all excited because that's his
That
favorite
is my
question.
thing. I love it. Augmented reality is where your book comes alive for the reader, is how I like to say it. So what happens is in your book, you'll have an image or something. So let's say you're a self-help book and you have a very important topic or something about that. And you can have as many experiences, AR experiences in your book as you like. But at the end of the chapter, let's say they've read something and you have this image that they can scan with their phone. When they scan it, it's not like a QR code, but it initiates a video, and it might be a video of you popping up on their phone to talk about the concept and maybe a good backstory or adding more value to what they just read. So it's an additional layer of, first of all, learning if you're teaching them something, or just a backstory to add more value. Or for a kid's book, it could be the characters coming alive in a little animated video to whatever, recreate something. And it's a lot of fun and it's really, really cool. And so people love that, the first of all, but the best part of it, because most of us are authorpreneurs, which means we have the business and we have the website and everything else behind it, is the call to action that you can include with your AR experience. So at the end of your little spiel, you would say something like, click the button below to learn more, or click the button below to download my free whatever you're giving away, to get on, you're creating a marketing list. There's a whole bunch of ways of using augmented reality to enhance the book and the experience for the reader. Yeah.
Is it wise? We got this question. Is it wise to publish more than one piece of work at a time?
we just talked about that actually. So there's lots of different ways to do it. If it was a trilogy, for example, we're actually doing one. We released the first book yesterday, actually, in a trilogy. So what we decided to do is we would make it a bestseller as we move along. And the most important thing, so you could do it, we could have waited for the 3 books. So that was another thing. So, but the thing is, even with when I did mine, I wanted to release them one at a time so I could begin the momentum and I could build momentum as I got ready to release my second one. Or you can literally hold and wait and release 3 at once. We have one author that's, believe it or not, is doing 12 books in 1 year, 12 children's books. She hasn't done any marketing though. So what will probably happen in the next year, 2022, is we're going to go full out marketing. That'll be the whole year will be. So there's a couple different ways to do it. Release one book, market one book, or release them together and market together. There is no, proper way to do it. It's whatever you wish to do.
And that's what I loved about the process of that. It wasn't this kind of like rinse and repeat system. It was very unique to every single author, depending on what you wanted to get out. And I will say, some people hear book and think, oh my goodness, a whole book. It could be a booklet. It could be a guide. It could be whatever it is, the literary work that you want to put out. That is, put it out. Like, don't delay, like put it out. Let there be a sense of urgency. Use this day to to really feel inspired to keep writing. But in the process, you can already start the conversations, the consultation with Judy and Dave, get their idea. Maybe it's just a concept, but obviously many of you have already written 2 or 3 chapters. Like, get it out. Like, we want to amplify your voice. That's why we're here today. So I am just so encouraged to see so many of you that are really discovering the art of publishing and writing.
So I do have another question. When should an author let people know the title of their book?
Now.
That girl is good. I agree.
Yeah.
I had something like 40 endorsements before my book manuscript was finished. So I had started talking, I had the book cover and title 2 years before the book got published. So yeah, now I saw the vision and then I finished, then I wrote the book. So absolutely. And back to what you were saying, Rosalind, one thing we did discover recently is that Amazon Kindle has short stories, they call it. And all it is that a book could literally be 1 to 11 pages. I saw multiple book series, best-selling series that were 11 pages long.
Short reads.
Wow. Yeah, short reads.
Short reads,
Yeah,
they call it, yeah.
they're Kindle. You can't print less than, I think it's 20. I know children's not less than 24 pages, so I'm going to guess adult too.
Yeah.
But Kindle wise, you can go really small with a book. I wouldn't hold back at all.
Anybody else have any other questions? Those were all the ones that I had. Oh, one more. Do you need to get your book certified with the Library of Congress? And if so, is that something that you all assist with?
You can if you wish to. Yes, we can assist with that as well. Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
It's optional. We don't do it for many of the authors, but absolutely.
Okay.
The nice part too, that leads to the question, sorry, Kevin, just gonna follow this for a second. Even the copywriting of your book, that you can copyright register your book with the US or Canada registry office. But the moment that you actually, even when Rosalind sent us that Google Doc, she was legally protected. We as a publisher can never ever disclose her book or do anything with it when it's sent to us. But the moment she sent it to us, she had electronic proof that we had access to her book. Therefore, she's copyright protected. So you don't have to worry about that either.
Oh, wow. That's great to know. All right, Kevin. I know you had a question, Kevin.
Yeah, I was just wondering, like you said, the price would be 5,000. Is that, and then, but you also said, well, it depends on the number of pages and the images and everything. So you said set price, and then you said something that sounded like it negated that. So if you could follow up on that. And then I was also just in my head, the way I am, I was wondering how many people pay like the 5,000 or whatever and end up taking it on the chin versus end up being profitable and can roll that money into their price of their next book. And I mean, is there a trend on that, or is it just how lousy or how good of an author you are?
So I want to speak to that, because I think what it is you can look at like, I want to get my message out, or you can look at it as how much I'm gonna have to pay to get the message out. I think the book getting out is just the beginning. Where you go from there, there are so many multiple ways to have, I apologize, to have your message, multiple ways to get income once you have your book out. You could be doing workshops, you can have online courses, you can travel the world giving your message. So it's not just going to be the only way you make money is by just having the book on Amazon. It opens up an incredible door. Now that I am able to say I am a best-selling author, that opens doors that I wouldn't have if I didn't have a book.
There's no one who can speak better than an author.
Yeah.
Because you're going to, like, no matter what, I'm going to be really honest, you're going to feel I'm biased. Yeah. So, but you're right, though. It's the opportunity you take as an author, too. Yeah. Have I seen the successes? Absolutely, yes. Have I seen people multiply their return on investment? Absolutely, yes. Have I seen people struggle to get return on investment? Yes. It is what you choose to do with it. Absolutely. And it's very hard to identify all of the return on investment because just what you said, Rosalind, there could be a business come out of it or an opportunity, or you could meet somebody. Like there's so many avenues that you go as an author that is just so hard to monetize.
I agree. Like I just never would have thought I would have been in the position that I am now with the power of one. It is a brand in and of itself. And
Yeah.
I am just so grateful that the door was open and that I didn't delay, that it wasn't a thought that I had. And I just thought, oh, I mean, it has been an incredible ride that continues. It really, really
And
continues. I
let
have
me ju-
speaking engagements because of it. It's an incredible journey.
let me just speak also to when Rosalind says just go for it, she means just go for it. She and I were literally, we do these virtual walks where we're 3 hours, 5 hours away. And so we were walking. I was like, Rosalind, we should like do a book tour. Like we need to do a book tour. And literally, I want to say Rosalind was like maybe a month. I put together a book tour as if I needed another business. She self-titled me a literary agent. And so I just called a few people, got her into a cafe, and then also into a festival. And Dr. Kevin, within a 2-day period, Rosalind's book was in one of the largest churches in the Hillsborough County area. Because I intimately know what she paid to have her book published, within those 2 days, she was almost halfway there with her book sales. So it just depends on how much you want to promote it. And as I think about it, just depending on what your book is about, just even in your chiropractic office, I mean, that's a just wonderful opportunity right in your waiting room for book sales.
Okay.
All right. Anything else? If not, we literally have 3 minutes left. We are not going to hold you past 1:30 because we respect your time and we thank you. Rosalind, if you could just flash up on the screen everybody's contact information. Don't forget, of course, Deanna, if it is a situation where you want to take a look at the ghostwriting route. But in addition to that, here is the contact information. And with that, we are going to say, have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the week.
Thank you so much, ladies. Appreciate being here.
This is great. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you. We appreciate your advice.
Oh, it's so good. Oh, I want to write another book. I am writing another book. I am.
Dr. Kevin, what are you writing? Can I ask or?
I'll tell you, one night I just